In this session, we'll look at some templates that we can use for summarize spoken tech questions. We'll look at a number of different templates, and you can use the one that is most suitable for your situation, depending upon your skill level and how much help you need. You can use the template. First, let's look at a question, a sample question. We'll hear an audio, then I'll show you a sample summary, which is written without the help of a template. All right. And that should always be the first preference, that you don't use templates. But if that's not possible, then we will look at, after this, in the next few slides, we will look at 4 different templates, starting from the most sophisticated to the simplest. Let me play the audio for you now.
There's a lot we can learn from Agbogbloshie, where scrap collected from city and nationwide is brought. For so many of us, our devices are black boxes. We know what they do, but not how they work or what's inside. In Agbogbloshie, people make it their business to know exactly what's inside. Scrap dealers recover copper, aluminum, steel, glass, plastic, and printed circuit boards. It's called urban mining. It's now more efficient for us to mine materials from our waste. There's 10 times more gold, silver, platinum, palladium in 1 ton of our electronics than in 1 ton of ore mined from beneath the surface of the earth. In Agbogbloshie, weight is a form of currency. Devices are dissected to recover materials, parts, and components with incredible attention to detail, down to the aluminum tips of electric plugs. But scrap dealers don't destroy components that are still functional. They supply them to repair workshops like this one in Agbogbloshie and the tens of thousands of technicians across the country that refurbish electrical and electronic equipment and sell them as used products to consumers that may not be able to buy a new television or a new computer.
Okay, that was the audio, and this is a summary written without using any templates. Scrap collected from all over the city and the country is brought to a central place. The scrap dealers here take apart the various objects and take out the precious stuff such as copper, aluminum, gold, etc. But the components that can still be used are not taken apart. They are instead sent to repair shops. So why is this a good response? Because it captures all the key points. So it summarizes everything. It understands what's the theme, the central theme that is around city, that is built around a place which is built around collecting and processing scrap. And then how it is collected and all the things that happen to it. Let's look at the first template now. Key point 1 is vital to key point 2. This leads to key point 3 that eventually results in key point 4. So 2 sentences. Then in each, we talk about 2 key points. As you can see, the template, the fixed words, they are very few. Is vital to, this leads to, that eventually results in. So that means you have to be good at understanding the key points and also structuring them correctly from a grammar perspective. So if you use this template, the response will look something like this. Key point 1 here was scrap collected from all over the city and the country. So scrap collected from all over the city and the country is vital to key point 2. So what is that key point 2? Is vital to the work of scrap dealers. This leads to what? Taking apart various objects and taking out precious stuff such as copper. That eventually results in what? In some components sent to repair shops. So all the key points we have identified, and this is very similar to the response that was written from scratch, which we saw in the previous slide. So if you're confident, you can use this template. But when you are putting in your key points, you have to make sure that there's no mistake. They're correct grammatically. A simpler template. The most important consideration in key point 1 is key point 2. Key point 3 is equally important. As significant is key point 4. So the most important consideration in scrap collection is, so the first key point is in scrap collection is bringing scrap from all over the city and the country. Key point 3 is taking apart objects and removing precious stuff is equally important. As significant is sending it to repair shops. So this is also a bit challenging, but a little simpler than the previous one. And you can use either of these templates And the way you put forward your key points, they can be rephrased. For example, in the previous one, the key point one was that the scrap is brought from all over the country and from the city and the country. And key point was that it is sent to the scrap dealers. But here it is slightly different. So that's fine. As long as you are capturing the main idea and that's fitting in and there are no grammar mistakes, you should be fine. Now let's look at the third template. Here again, you use key points, but this is a bit further simpler version. So key point 1, scrap collected from city and country is important in modern society because it is sent to scrap dealers. Now this doesn't make a lot of sense, and that is the characteristic of the template sometimes. So every topic we try to fit in the same template, and that's why some sentences, they fit as if they were written from scratch, but some, they seem a bit off. And this is an example of that. So because it is sent to scrap dealers, therefore, taking apart objects and removing precious metal is very significant to ignore. Finally, sending to repair shops completes the picture. So now this is a template, but the response is not as good. It doesn't sound logically as good as the previous two. All right. That is why we give you these multiple templates. So if you are using, let's say, template number 3, and you think my key points, they are not fitting well, then don't waste too much time. Take the second template example and try to fit in that. If nothing works, then you always have a very simple template, which is this one, and you just need to capture some keywords from the audio. You don't even have to bother about fully understanding the theme, understanding the relationships between different things in the audio. Just pick some keywords. So something like keywords while scrap. So we just picked scrap. That was one keyword, and the other keywords, objects and precious stuff. So just based upon that, we have been able to fill the whole response. So this is wonderful, isn't it? And if you are able to capture more keywords, just add them after keywords 2 or in some place after keywords 1. So for example, scrap has an intricate relation. You can even say, if you have been able to capture scrap dealers or recycling, you can say scrap and recycling has an intricate relationship, or you can say scrap and scrap dealers have an intricate relationship. Just make sure that there are no grammar mistakes in the end, but simply by being able to pick 2 or 3 keywords from the audio, if you put them in this template here, you still get a good response. But you should always aim for either template 1 or template 2, or just writing it from the scratch, following the method that we have discussed for summarized spoken text in the earlier sessions.